And now it's my honor to introduce our next cast member. Please welcome the very brave Beth.
My story is called From Numbness to Oneness, Recovering Body, Mind, and Soul. And I'd like to dedicate my story on the eve of Mother's Day to my mother, Esther, whose own story of mental illness is intertwined with my story of recovery from mental illness and addiction. And to all families and children who've yet to find support and healing, that they may know recovery is possible for everyone. My mother began giving me her prescription pills when I was around 12. She would say this was just to help calm me down a bit and take the edge off. That's how she survived. Almost 10 years passed before she was diagnosed with schizophrenia and got the help that she needed. Growing up, I'd seen my dad sit down every evening for a drink. He'd call it an attitude adjustment. My drinking began when I discovered that I could sneak booze. Some days I'd put liquor in my thermos and took it to school. This wasn't to be cool. I never told anyone. I just needed to numb myself out enough to get through the day. That's how bad my pain was at 12 or 13. I remember the feeling of warmth, fuzziness, and the numbing that came with each drink or pill. My parents' divorce, sudden loss of family and friends, living in isolation with a parent with untreated mental illness. My pain grew exponentially. Abuse increased as my mother focused her attention onto the only person there with her, me. She told me I was bad, evil, wrong, and even a poison. I made the only natural conclusion I could. Something must be wrong with me. Many nights, I'd wake to my mother's voices, sometimes finding her standing over my bed. I'll kill you. I'll kill you. I'll kill you now. I'd hear it over and over again, in the night, and sometimes in the daytime too. I'd remain frozen, trying to be invisible, praying for someone to save me, that I would wake to another day. I felt a sense of terror that it's still sometimes hard to speak of. I wanted more than anything to call on my mother for protection, but instead I needed to protect myself from her. I experienced severe anxiety, panic attacks, and depression. Later, I would come to know this as PTSD. I had frequent migraines and other unexplained symptoms. I began to believe suicide was my only way out, contemplating it often, later attempting it twice. In college, my pain surfaced even more, and my need to numb out intensified. I'd pass out and black out, often waking up, not even knowing where I was or who I was with. My health issues increased. Many days I did not get out of bed. I was diagnosed with fibromyalgia, which doctors told me was all in my head. I was offered painkillers and antidepressants to cope with my imaginary symptoms. But I discovered a combination of alcohol, marijuana, and cocaine worked far better. After dropping out of school, my depression was so deep, I had little will to live. I couldn't imagine going through life with this vast hole inside of me. I felt like one day I would just fall in. I was filling that hole with alcohol, drugs, and anything else that could keep me in numbness. I was utterly lost and hopeless. Yet there was something that kept me holding on, a deep inner longing in my soul to feel connected. This feeling had always been there, keeping me alive. In my 20s, I started studying different paths, seeking that connection. I embraced Buddhism, Sufism, and indigenous traditions. I practiced yoga and meditation and other holistic approaches. I went to therapy too. I came to understand the impact of trauma on my life, and I worked hard to heal the root of my pain and addiction. As my pain began to lessen, my substance use did too. I didn't know what recovery was or that I was even recovering. I was just focused on being out of pain emotionally and physically in more natural ways. Still, I had times when my pain arose so strongly that the hole inside of me would burst open, emerging like a tsunami, trying to drag me back down into the dark abyss. Believing there was no real way out, I would slip back into drinking, using drugs, and wanting to die. Although these feelings and patterns became less and less over time, they still recurred for many years. In my mid-30s, my journeys led me to visit a shaman who journeyed through a process called soul retrieval to reconnect a part of me that was lost. In shamanism, an ancient form of spiritual healing, it is believed that a part of the human soul is free to leave the body and may do so to protect itself from threatening or dangerous situations, including trauma. The shaman reported that she found my inner 13-year-old hanging from the edge of a vast abyss by her fingertips, which were slowly slipping away. This was the feeling I had most of my life. Hanging by my fingertips on the edge of a vast abyss and slowly slipping away. I could feel the pain, the terror, and the trauma that this part of me still carried. It was so immense, it could fill that vast chasm. As my healing continued through shamanic and holistic practices, I came to understand what I had experienced on a deeper level. I learned to reconnect and nurture my inner ones so that they could feel safe without my needing to numb out. And I discovered that healing the hole inside of me came through embracing and loving myself. In being willing to travel into the darkest places of my being, I was able to find my inner light and reclaim the true essence of who I am. A new life emerged I never imagined was possible. My healing journey led me to apprentice and become a shaman myself. I learned how to support others in reconnecting to heal their core wounds. Today, I feel blessed to be able to support others on their recovery journeys through shamanic healing and holistic practices. This is the gift of my past trauma and pain. The message I've learned through my journey is this: you are already whole, you just need to remember. You are already whole, you just need to remember. This is my brave. Thank you.